This is Get Real with Bob and Stacey, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacey Alcorn.
Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacey. You're tuning into our Leaders and Legends segment. Joining us by phone today, we have Pete Psichogios. Pete is the president of CSI International Performance Group and author of his most recent book, The 7 Personalization Principles. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Thank you very much, Bob and Stacey. It's good to be here. Hopefully I'm still a leader and not a legend yet.
A leader and a legend.
There you go. Thank
you. I want to share for our listeners just a little bit of Pete's background. As you mentioned, Bob, he's with CSI International Performance Group, and they're a company that creates engaging employee and customer experiences. And prior to joining CSI, Pete served as an executive member of one of the largest instructional system association companies in the world. He led all the front-end analysis and worked directly with Dr. Ken Blanchard, which many of us know who he is through all of his books. He led one of the largest scale e-learning and employee engagement initiatives. Pete has another book, Leading from the Front Lines, and his new book is The 7 Personalization Principles. Share with us, Pete, what the new book is all about.
Thank you, Stacey. I'd be happy to. It's a great book. It's short, similar to Blanchard's books, meaning that even though there's lots of research and lots of background, it's still a very easy, quick read. And what the book discusses is how customization and creating real-time, personalized service interactions are the megatrends today and really the megatrends for the next decades to come. And the book goes into detail around each of the 7 principles, but more importantly, it looks at proven winners who have had strategic focus around personalization for many years and in some cases decades. And these companies are Netflix, Nordstrom's, Disney, Southwest Airlines, Apple, Starbucks, and Timbuktu, which is a small retailer, that are all creating sustainable service success by embodying these, what we call personalization principles.
Gotcha. So I'm super excited about today's program because I think of all the things that are difficult when you're trying to scale a business, like personalizing the experience seems like it's the most difficult. Can you share the 7 personalization principles that you talk about in the book?
Be happy to. Maybe make a comment first, Stacey.
Yep.
I agree. It's one of the harder things in business to do today with the proliferation of all these apps, technology, and now even robots that are inside of our businesses. How do we create a personalized, friendly, hassle-free experience is one of the harder things to do. But what we found in these companies that we profiled have been doing it for years and decades, and it's really exciting because it's possible for any type size of business, not just for these big iconic brands. So quickly, the principles are be authentic, be hospitable, be empathetic, be committed, be competent, be friendly, and be fun. And I'll go into a little depth in each one of them. And maybe before I do, I'll talk about that they're all interdependent, meaning that if you're great at 6 and not good at 1, you're going to be lacking in your success and sustainability. And so if I may, I'll cover each one of these just briefly.
Okay.
And then maybe we can talk about an example or two that we learned from the research about how these principles play out.
Got it.
Make sense?
Yep, let's do it.
Well, the first personalization principle is authenticity. And let's face it today, whether you're in the real estate business, whether you're selling an Apple Watch, there's such an abundance of oftentimes unauthentic, self-interested people that it's really refreshing and sometimes rare to interact with a provider or an individual who treats you with authenticity. I think today more than ever, human beings crave authentic, personalized, and hassle-free interactions. In fact, I'd argue that people don't get enough authenticity in their interactions with other human beings. The second personalization principle is developing and maintaining a positive, hospitable attitude. If you think about it, creating a hospitable attitude isn't just for business. It's an important skill for the rest of your personal life as well. And if you think about it, a positive attitude or a hospitable attitude is almost always a precursor to sustainable success. Being empathetic in business with both your teammates and your customers is the third personalization principle. Being empathetic when a colleague or a customer is having a challenge or an issue is also critically important today. I think demonstrating empathy is the ability to really understand and, more importantly, create the type of experience that your customer desires. The fourth personalization principle is commitment. Are you committed to your mission? Are you committed to your job? Are you committed to your personal growth? Are you committed to exceeding your customers' expectations? Now, the answer to these type of questions is really paramount if you're going to be a success at personalization as well as exceeding your customers' expectations. You can be authentic, you can be empathetic, you can be hospitable, you can be fun, friendly, you can have loads of ability and competence. However, if you don't have commitment, the rest of those principles really lack efficacy. And if you think about it, and I think about it a lot, there's really a large difference between being committed and being interested in something. Committed people show up no matter what. Interested people say it's partly cloudy, I'm not in the game. The fifth personalization principle is competence. If you don't have competence today, meaning the skills and the ability to excel in your role, then I believe your commitment's going to soon suffer. This is really a critical principle if you're in a leadership role too. If you're a leader, and many of you are listening today, it's really important. You need to enable your team with skills and development to ensure they have the competence and the ability to solve your customers' problems, whether that be an internal customer or an external customer. Competence today doesn't mean you're going to be competent in the future. It's critically important to thrive in the personalization economy requires that all of us are going to be continual learners today, that we need to have opportunities to enhance our competence and our ability. So anyone serving a customer has to be increasingly competent and committed. The sixth personalization principle is friendliness. It's one of the things we learned that every one of the clients or customers that we profiled in the book hired to friendliness. I think friendly people rule today. If you think about it from a business standpoint, one rude person can ruin years of loyalty, and friendly people can create decades of loyalty. What we learned from the research and what I learned from traveling the world with Ken Blanchard is that I believe the best leaders have figured this out. What they figured out is you cannot train friendly. People either have that friendly gene or they do not. And every one of the companies in our research group hired to friendly. If you think about it, if you want your customers to stay longer, whether you're selling a house, a mortgage, an Apple Watch, or a cup of coffee, it doesn't matter. If you want your customers to stay longer, buy more, and refer others, it's critically important that you and your team ooze friendliness with each and every interaction. If you're not friendly today, you're failing. You're falling behind. The seventh personalization principle is fun. It's another one that every one of the companies hired and recruited to friendly and fun. If you think about it, and I do, I think fun is a serious issue. Especially today, I think we could all agree that today's hyper, fast-paced technology world, the little extra fun, one or two extra laughs, and especially doing something fun or fulfilling for a customer or colleague is going to be really welcome today. So those are the seven principles. Again, they all have to be interdependent and work in harmony. And if you'd like, maybe we can talk about how these principles are shown in action in a company or two.
Yes, I have like 100 questions. So
I have about 200.
Yeah.
We may have to stretch out this interview a little bit.
All right. I'm
So-
only good for 3 answers.
Yeah. So first, let's talk, for example, we talked for a second about Nordstrom's, and I'm going to give you an example with my own company. So I grew my real estate company from 10 agents to now 400 agents. And the way I grew it was developing a culture of like personalized service. The bigger you get, the harder it is to not become a bureaucracy. And even the little things, like when 10 years ago, when I had, say, 50 real estate agents, we would do like send out gifts to the agents on their birthday and then send out gifts to their family members and like to really get them engaged. And they were like hand selected. Now today we still do it, but it's like everybody gets the same thing and it's totally lost its luster. It's like now it's like an expectation that you get your birthday brownies, and if not, then somebody's going to call and complain that they didn't get their birthday brownies. So we went from like a really customized something that made us awesome to like now this thing that we do that I don't even think that it matters to most people anymore. So how do you fix that?
first of all, Stacey, congratulations on the growth. And then also what you're talking about is a really common issue when companies and organizations have that type of growth, meaning something that used to be a creative perk becomes an entitlement.
Yeah.
Or something that used to be fresh and special becomes part of the bureaucracy and rote and routine.
Right.
And there's two things that organizations need to do, and especially leaders. Leaders need to stay attuned for looking for policies and procedures that have outlived their useful date. But that used to be great and it worked once, but now it's clearly not working. So how do we freshen that so it doesn't become an entitlement and it achieves the outcome that we're looking for, which is really personalized one-on-one service, not one size fits all like, again, it's growing into. And we talk about Nordstrom's, and now that's a huge organization. They have that many people in one store, and they've grown globally. And so I had a chance many years ago to sit down with Bruce Nordstrom of Nordstrom's and talk about how do you run an organization that has such great consistent service all over every place and not have your employees take advantage of you. And he said something that's forever changed my life. He said, Pete, most organizations design their policies and procedures for the 5% who are going to screw you. And what I figured out at Nordstrom's is we can't write enough policies and procedures to protect ourselves from that 5%. So what we chose to do here at Nordstrom's is design our organization for the 95% who are going to protect us and protect our customers. Because then I think it's worked out pretty well.
Wow.
And so it's kind of folklore in the leadership management industry, but Nordstrom's company culture is one that's really authentic. And it's one of the things that most people like me talk about when they give speeches. And that's the fact that Nordstrom's policy or their handbook only has one rule. And that one rule for their employees is, quote unquote, to use their best judgment at all times.
That's
So
awesome.
nice, easy
Isn't
rule.
that awesome?
I'm going to throw out my 50-page policy and procedure manual.
Just you need one
and
line.
again, it's not loosey-goosey. I mean, we talked a little about this before the call started, is they do have values, and they're very strict on enforcing their values.
Yes.
But they don't have a bunch of silly policies because they hire really bright, intelligent people. And then they let them use that intelligence to be authentic, to be hospitable, to be empathetic. It drives commitment. They make sure they're competent, and they hire to fun and friendly. It's why they create such great experiences for the customers as well as their shareholders for years and decades.
This is awesome. My head's spinning, so I'm going to have to figure out how to do that and how to hire to that. By the way, how did you go about gathering the information to put the book together? And is there anything that really surprised you when you were doing your research?
A couple things. One is it was an eclectic way of gathering research. One is because I've traveled the world and had the pleasure to work with many iconic brands, both good and bad and neutral, I had some insight into these organizations. And what I really wanted to dig into is how have they evolved through the changing times and continue to thrive? And so a lot of it was my life's work. And then here at CSA International, we spent many years doing both action research, meaning shopping these organizations, and then a bunch of book work where we did tons of research around what were their management practices, how are they getting these results, how are they supporting these principles. So it's really a blend of those three. But the funnest was really the mystery shopping or the action research where we would compare organizations and see how they embodied the principles or didn't.
I would do a lot of mystery shopping, like for ice cream and maybe cakes.
Yeah. And so two, maybe couple surprises. One that was really positive is that what we learned is that the best organizations, the one who made the cut and made it into the book, were great at all seven. Many of the ones that we really liked but just didn't have the sustainable results were maybe great at 5 and were lacking at 2. So that was kind of a positive confirmation. But the other kind of surprise is that every one of these companies, and they're all different segments serving all sorts of different customers, hire and recruit to their culture of fun and friendly because they know those two things can't be trained. And so they can train and develop the rest of the skills and the competencies, but the fun and friendliness is something that was a common factor amongst all these very different organizations. And so that was kind of very kind of confirming and surprising as well.
It also seems like even if you have to spend more, and I'm not even saying that they do, but to recruit that kind of talent, I think these types of organizations have such amazing word-of-mouth marketing that like their customers are the ones marketing the brands for them. They're not having to spend millions of dollars on TV advertising.
Yeah, Stacey, it's both. You really hit the nail right on the head, is that when you have great service that starts from the inside out, when you have an organization that's living these principles, you're exactly right, Stacey. Your customers become an extended sales force for your organization. But there's the flip side, is your service can't be ever better than your internal service. Your brand externally can never be better than your internal brand. So what happens, and he'll give you a real life example, when Nordstrom's opens up a new store in a new mall, and when we were consulting with them way back when, and they're just opening up in Tyson's Corner in Virginia, Nordstrom's didn't have to advertise.
Right.
Everybody knew Nordstrom's was coming, and everybody who worked at a similar company wanted to go work for Nordstrom's. Why? Because they're legendary for letting people use their brain to be creative. They're legendary for having hassle-free policies. They're legendary for their customer service. They're legendary for their career growth. Why wouldn't you want to work there if you could just walk 300 yards and pretty much sell the same stuff?
Right. Wow.
That's a good point.
So any big disappointments that you found in your research?
Well, I don't know if it was a big disappointment, but maybe it was a personal disappointment, because one of the companies that was right on the cusp, and they were in the book, and there was 8 companies instead of 7, was Chipotle. And right when we were publishing the first draft of the book, Chipotle had the big, food-borne illness issue.
Yep.
And I still think Chipotle is a very good company, and I think over the long term, they're probably going to be a leader in food safety. But right when we were publishing the book, we were debating whether to put it in or not. And the disappointing thing is when we dug a little deeper in the research, there was no alignment between senior leaders or any leaders anywhere in the company I could find between their incentives and food safety. It was all about stock price. And so when you have the very top of the CEO down to the store manager not being incentivized for food safety, that was kind of disappointing. I'm sure they're going to change it.
Right.
But that was an example of lacking authenticity, lacking some alignment. So even though they're one of our favorite companies as far as the way they service to their guests, they didn't make it. And then I was kind of disappointed that some of my personal favorites like Tesla, Uber, Airbnb were just not quite mature enough to make it into this draft.
Right.
Companies like Facebook and even Zillow in your industry, right? They're disruptors, but they're still too early to say, are they enhancing the customer experience? Are they adding to the personalization? How do you all fit into that equation? Because it's another piece of technology that still needs a human. So these are the interesting questions, and it's maybe personalization principles 2.0.
Yes. Well, I am disappointed that our time is already up. It seems like that was like 2 minutes. I'm ordering the book only because this is, for me, definitely the biggest challenge I have in my business is the personalization so that I can scale and build a company and hire to people that are friendly and fun, things like that. So I'm going to check it out. So hopefully we can have you back on a future show.
Yeah, we'll both read the book and have you back, and we can get a little more in depth about the book as well.
I'd love it, because these principles are really relevant for your listeners, whether you're a mortgage or a real estate agent. People buy from friendly people they like.
Absolutely.
All things being not so equal, people buy from people who are friendly and who they like.
That's
absolutely
very true. Very true.
So
thank you, Bob. Thank you, Stacey, so much. Maybe I could tell people where to get a copy.
Yes, please do.
Be so inclined. The best place probably to get it, and the easiest place is Amazon.com. It's available for ordering right now.
Okay.
It's also available directly from us, www.csiperformance.com. And you can call us toll-free at 855-231-8407.
Nice. And that is the 7 Personalization Principles by Pete Psichogios. Thank you, Pete, for joining us today.
Great. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Stacey and Bob.
Great. So we're going to take a quick break for some commercials, and we'll be back with more Get Real after this.